Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslima. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen, coming to you from the slightly cold Denmark. And I say slightly cold Denmark because I have been told by my family that it has definitely been much colder a couple of months ago. And it's kind of like, getting a little bit milder. It's definitely still colder than it was in Spain, but I'm not complaining. I actually don't mind the cold necessarily. I'm the kind of person who prefers being a little bit too cold than a little bit too hot. I might be the only one there. That might be my Danish genetics. It's definitely not my Moroccan genetics, but they might take over a little bit there. But I'm here because my dad, inshallah, will be celebrating his 70th birthday this week, and I'm here to help him celebrate, inshallah. And while I am here, and the reason why I'm sharing this, by the way, with you is because you may notice as I'm recording my podcast episodes from Denmark that there won't be many farm animal noises. There's not going to be all the cockatoodle-tooing in the background. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I do also feel a little bit like that is like a part of my signature in my podcast. That's what makes me stand out, is the cockatoodle-toos. But it might be a little bit easier for you to listen without all the farms. I don't know how you guys feel about it, to be honest with you. So you're gonna have to let me know about that. But yeah, so you're not gonna hear a lot of chickens in the background, turkeys, all that good stuff. You might still hear the dogs because the dogs are here with me, but I will be here for a couple of weeks in Denmark. So the next couple of weeks worth of episodes is probably going to be a little bit more quiet than usual. So let's see how either amazing that'll be or eerie. I'm not sure which one. I already miss my chickens endlessly. Anyway, that's not what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about affirmations. We're going to talk about everything to do with affirmations, because this is such a hot topic when it comes to law of attraction. It's such I kind of want to put it up there like affirmations on the same level as like on the popularity scale when it comes to law of attraction as like vision boards and stuff like that. Like, people know about affirmations because it's such a hugely talked about subject. So a lot of people know about it, and it's become almost a slightly romanticized aspect of the law of attraction. And I think it's because, just as it is with like vision boards and mood boards and all that stuff, it's easy to do, and it's like a cozy thing to do almost. Like, it's nice to sit and do like the scrapbooking for a vision board. And it's also kind of nice to like affirm things to yourself, hang pictures or post-its or whatever of affirmations, remove the background screen on your phone for something that is like an affirmation. Like all of these things, I call it kind of like the romantic side of the law of attraction, where it's all the stuff that's fun to do and kind of cozy, and it brings out that romantic aspect. I don't know if that makes sense when I say it that way, but like I can't really figure out the other word for it, but it's like that romanticizing of your life, it feels like to me. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. So, but I obviously, clearly, as you might hear in the way that I'm describing it, I do feel some type of way about this, and that's what we're going to talk about amongst other things today, because this is such a potent topic, again, because it is so popular. So affirmations, in case you have been living under a rock, which, let's be real, is not a problem with, because I've been living under a rock for the last year, and it is a beautiful thing where you mind your own business and people don't get in your business and you don't get in nobody's business, and it's a wonderful thing. So I'm not judging you if you have, but affirmations is basically quotes and sayings that you will repeat to yourself in order to, the theory is, in order to change your mindset for something that is far more lucrative, abundance, positive, something like that for yourself. So you'll, instead of like having your mind go on autopilot saying things like, oh, I'm fat, I'm not worthy, blah, 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 you'll start saying to yourself things like, I have a beautiful body, I have curves in all the right places, I am worthy of love, la, 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 all that good stuff. And affirmations can come depending on, the subject in thousands and millions of ways. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to affirmations is, do they work? And yes and no. I want to say yes, they work, and no, not if they're not done correctly. So yes, they 100% work if you do the affirmations correctly and you understand where in your journey, when it comes to the law of attraction and using the law of attraction and doing all the work, they come into play. No, they don't work if you're just taking them and kind of just hanging them on your wall and you're just kind of repeating whatever other people are saying, but you're not doing any of the other work. Does that make sense? I'm going to get into it, so don't worry. But so yes, they work, but no, they also don't work unless you do the proper work. Just like you can, go to the gym and run for an hour, but it's, it's going to make you feel a little bit healthier, but it's not going to overcome the fact that you'll then go home and sit down and eat a whole bar of chocolate necessarily, right? So there has to be a balance. It has to be combined work that'll get you the result. And that's the same thing with affirmations, also things like vision boards and stuff like that. But of course, again, we're talking affirmations today. So let me try and stay on topic for a second. For once in my life, I do have a tendency to interrupt myself. I don't know why, but I do that a lot. So when affirmations work, it is because you have done all the other work around you. So you've worked on your belief, you've understood what belief you're trying to combat, where that belief is coming from. So the negative belief that you're basically trying to replace with this new affirmation. So if you have a negative belief that says, I am not worthy of making more money than X, Y, and Z, and you understand that it's coming from your childhood because you were never supposed to, or you felt like you were never supposed to make more money than your mum or dad. And then all of a sudden you were in a situation where you could make more money than your mum and dad, or you wanted to make more money than your mum and dad, then that old belief from childhood could have been holding you back, telling you it's not safe for me, or it's not good if I make more money then, or whatever. And that's like a belief that then you've started to hold on to, and it might not be logically something that you fully believe in, but it's there, and it's there enough for it to kind of restrict you from then earning more money. So that would be something that you would then work on. That is the negative belief system that you want to replace. This is where it's coming from. This is why it's there. And then you try logically to take it away. And then you would put in an affirmation, something that is a positive that goes against it, like a new thought, a new belief that basically gives you that new identity or that new belief around the thing that you're trying to change. So do you see like the amount of steps that I took there? I know that went a little bit fast, but first identify the thing that you're trying to change. Where is it coming from? Work on that thought. Like, why is that no longer relevant? And then you'll change it. And then on top of that, no, let me stop interrupting myself. I am so sorry, my darling. I have a massive tendency to do this. I've already said that. So the point is that this whole part of the affirmations actually don't come in until quite a ways down the road. You have to do other things in order for the affirmation to come in and work. And the reason why we're not just plotting it in and hoping that the new affirmation, just automatically replaces something is because we don't even know what it is it's supposed to replace. We don't even understand what kind of affirmation we're supposed to be saying. So if we're using an affirmation, let's say again that the thought here, and again, do this with whatever it is that's for you, that comes up for you. But like if the thought around money is, I shouldn't be making too much money because the man should be the provider, or something to that effect. And that is a lesson that you in your childhood may have adopted because your mum never made more than your dad. Your dad was the provider. And at some point when you started making more money, your dad might have felt like your dad resented you for having more money, or it might have felt like you then had to start looking after your family with the money that you had, or your mum might have even said, be careful, you're not too independent, you will never find a husband. There might have been a ton of different reasons why this belief, came into play. But understanding this, where it came from, then you'll know exactly the belief that you need to combat. It is not just a question of, it is safe for me to make more money. No, it is safe for me to make more money and still be deserving of finding marriage. It is okay for me to make more money than my dad. I am allowed to make more money without providing for my entire family. Do you see the difference? It is a specification of an affirmation to your specific situation and belief that you're trying to combat. Let me say that again. I can't say it as beautifully as I just said, but I felt like I really said some good-ish right there. So rewind if you need to hear that again, okay? Because I probably won't be able to say it as beautifully again. But it's an affirmation that is specific to the situation or belief that you're trying to combat. So it's not enough just to say, I am worthy of making more money. Yeah, okay, you can make more money. But if your belief from back when says to you, yeah, I can make more money, 100%, but then I'm not worthy of getting married, or then I have to look after my entire family financially, or whatever else might come up. And that is the actual belief. It's not just a question of making more money. It is what it means to make more money. So a affirmation, after you've dealt with the actual belief that you have, would then be to specify an affirmation that relates specifically to that negative belief. Do you see now why affirmations do not work unless you've done the actual work? Because you can make affirmations around money all you want, but if they're not specific to your situation, they might not change anything, and making more money might still feel icky to you, or feel shameful to you, or feel greedy, or feel like you're pushing away marriage or a partnership or whatever, or a male provider. You know, a lot of us do want to have men who provide for us, and we still want to make a ton of money ourselves, but we still want that old school thing, and there's no shame in that. But if you don't understand the belief within yourself, then how are you supposed to make an affirmation that speaks directly to it? Okay, so this is the number one first thing that I will 100% tell you if you are planning on using affirmations, or if you're already using affirmations, is press pause. Press pause on that. I know it's such a fun, as I said, like romanticized part of law of attraction and doing all of this work on yourself and becoming a better person and all these good things and manifesting the life that you want for yourself. But if you're not doing it correctly, you're basically just, throwing hard spaghetti on a wall and hoping that it'll stick. No, you got to boil the water first. It's got to become limp, a limp spaghetti noodle. My mind is astaghfirullah. But that's what you have to do. There's prep work before the spaghetti will stick. Okay. And right now, the spaghetti is the affirmations, right? Before the affirmations are going to stick, you're going to have to boil the water. What does that mean? It means that you need to go in and look at what belief am I trying to combat, and what do I have to do with that belief first logically before I can replace it. Because you cannot dismantle or sort of replace a belief without dismantling the old one. You cannot build a new house on top of an old house. Okay, that is basically what you're doing if you're not doing the work ahead of time. You're basically trying to build something on top of something that's already there. It doesn't work. You cannot build a house on top of a shed. The shed will break. It won't give the proper foundation. So the house that you build on top is going to be wobbly and cracking and won't have a beautiful foundation to sit on. And it's going to show problems down the line for you. So that's what we're doing here before we come in and build the house and, put in the beautiful wallpaper and all that good stuff. Those are the affirmations. That's the wallpaper. It's the color of the walls. It's the whether or not you want to have gold sink or white porcelain sink. Like, I don't know, whatever your style is. Okay. But that's basically what that means. So yes, they work. No, they won't work unless you do the actual work that comes along with it. And in case, I'm just going to say this here really quickly, because otherwise I'm going to forget. If you're wondering how to do that work around your beliefs, I do have the course called Belief Breakthrough. It's £80. It's actually $79.99. You get a whole penny back. But I do have that course, and I do go through all of that, how to literally, figure out what the old belief is, uncover it, sit with it, figure out what the feelings are that are associated with it, figure out how to work against it, and then coming in all the way through to where you do the affirmation work. So if you're interested in doing that, there's a link. I'm going to put the link in my show notes. It's an online course, so you can do it whenever you want to, but I would definitely recommend doing that if you're planning on using affirmations, or if you know already now that you have some thoughts that are not necessarily helping you on your way to manifest a better life for yourself. Okay. So, I just wanted to get that one in there real quick in case you're like, but Zara, how do I do that? That's how you do it. You go in, you get that course, and you do the work. Okay, so that's the first thing that I wanted to say. The second thing around affirmations that I really think is so important as well is that a two-parter. Number one, I've spoken in this a little bit already, is using your own words. Like, saying an affirmation is not just, oh, I'm worthy of making more money. It's, I'm worthy of making more money, and then X, Y, and Z, depending on what your old belief is, because you're basically trying to dismantle an old belief and not just a generic one. Okay. So you want to use your own words, make it personal to you. If you don't use words like worthy, then don't use words like worthy in your affirmations. If you want to use words like, I have the riz, Sorry, I'll try to speak Gen Z. I don't know how to speak Gen Z. Okay, let's put it in a different way. That was a horrible example. But if you want to say stuff like, I can still find a husband even if I'm filthy rich, or however you want to say it, I can be a fucking girl boss and still have a husband that makes more money than me. Like, however you want to say, use your words. This is so important. Use the way that you would speak to yourself. Make it familiar to you. This is also, again, like, I think when people use affirmations, they usually go like on Pinterest and they find a bunch of affirmations in English. If you don't speak English to yourself in your mind, why would you start using affirmations in English? Start using the language that you speak to yourself. Use the words that you speak. That'll make your affirmations 10 times more powerful and potent because you're relating to it. There's no point in you using words that you don't use on a regular basis if it's not relating directly to the way that you view your situation, the way you speak to yourself. If your mind is telling you things like, I'm not saying that you're unworthy. If it's what other word could I use right now? Because I use words like worthy and unworthy. So for me, it's a little bit difficult to come up with words. But it could be, whatever word that might come up for you. If you're too independent, a man won't marry you. If you're, like stuff like that. Use the words that you would use. So you take that belief and say, even though I'm independent and I make my own money and I am delightfully rich, I can still find love and get married with a person who will still provide for me and make more than me, if that is the thing that you wanted to do. Anyway, that's just to give you a little bit of a heads up on that. Use your own words. Stop trying to beautify, is that a word? Is to beautify your affirmations if you don't talk that way to yourself. Use your own words. It is so important. I cannot stress this enough. It is so important. And when I've said that, I think the next step in this two-parter is, the next step in this two-parter is put emotion in it. Make it feel something for you. Let there be emotion behind the thing you're saying. It is not enough for you to just say a random phrase if it doesn't mean anything. I can say a lot of things, but if I don't believe it, if it doesn't bring up some emotions in me of empowerment, of confidence, of boss bitch attitude, of self-love, self-worth, whatever it is that I'm trying to get the affirmation to give me of emotions, of feelings within myself, then again, it's basically, again, like, throwing hard spaghetti on a wall and hoping it'll stick. Uncooked spaghetti, I think I should say. Uncooked spaghetti, not hard spaghetti, but it's still uncooked is hard anyway. But the point is, you want to make sure that the affirmations that you're saying are not just these blank phrases that you're throwing out and hoping that eventually, maybe one day in the future at some point, it'll mean something or it'll make you feel something. Use sentences and phrases that actually mean something to you, that they create an emotion, a sense of feeling of something that you're trying to get from this sentence within yourself. So use a sentence that, again, uses your own words and then creates a feeling within you. And this is where, in the beginning, you might repeat the same phrases, but after a while, you might realize, today I need to say it slightly different to really get the feeling that I'm trying to get into myself. Because when we're repeating something, it becomes a bit stagnant, right? We start getting a little bit stuck on it, right? So we want to make sure that if we need to, even though we've written down a specific affirmation, if the affirmation is no longer making us feel the things that we want to feel, we might want to change up a word or add fucking in there to add emphasis. I don't know. I don't have a beautiful mouth. I curse. So sometimes that helps for me. If it doesn't help for you, then obviously don't do it. But you might want to use different words one day to really get a specific emotion out there or up in yourself. So make sure that you're not just speaking empty sentences daily or repeating empty sentences to yourself, which is also why I would say, it's nice enough to have these little posters or whatever you buy from Etsy. And listen, I'm not going to judge you because they're pretty and I guess there's an aesthetic in it and whatever. But if you're going to do that, make sure that you're then amplifying it by making that one thing, infused with your personal emotions, making sure that every time you see that poster or picture that you've got hanging with a specific quote or whatever, give it an emotion, give it a feeling, make sure that it really rings true to you, that there's something in it that really just makes so much sense to you, that it's not just an empty sentence in a frame, but it means something to you. And if you can, again, personalize it. Make your own on Canva and print it out at Vistaprint or wherever, like a shop down the road that'll print it for you. But make it personal to you, even if it might not sound as aesthetic as live, laugh, what is it called? Live, laugh, love, or love, live, that thing, that rubbish, that white people bullshit. Listen, if you're white, I'm half white too. I'm also hating on myself. It's so cool. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's swiftly move on before she's cancelled. It's only a matter of time with this one and her tongue. Okay, so that is the two-parter bit where use your own words and also make sure you're placing emotions into it. And the last thing that I would want to say is when it comes to affirmations, is don't rely so much on them. Don't make your whole journey about your affirmations. Again, it's a fun little thing on the side, whatever. But what I would say is more beneficial from personal experience and from the experience of my clients in the past that I have been coaching is to make it a daily ritual for you just to challenge your thoughts more, and making sure that every time you have a thought about something that you want to do where there might be a negative thought sort of attached to it, to always end on a positive thought. And sometimes that positive thought might be something that might sound like an affirmation, but make it, instead of it being like I have to stand in front of the mirror and be like, I am beautiful, I am strong, I am this, I am that, make it a thing that is so that is so part of who you are, that you basically are constantly saying affirmations to yourself every time your mind has a negative thought. This is slightly more sort of like, I would call it advanced, but get used to it already now. Like, make this a goal when it comes to your affirmations. Let me give you an example. This is from my own life, because I'll say things about myself all the time because I have a very self-deprecating kind of humor. I love it. I think it's so much fun. But I'm also aware that the things that I say have an impact. And if I say something self-deprecating about me enough times, there may be a point where I start believing it, which is why if I make a joke about myself, like, I'm such a messy person because I forgot something or something like that, I will always be like, well, I'm not, but I'm just doing it right now, but I'm actually kind of an organized person and I really enjoy having organization, but right now I feel messy. So do you see what I did there? That's just as an example. I'll say something that is basically a negative thing about myself, but I don't want to attach negativity to myself or about my skills or anything like that, because I believe in having a growth mindset. So even if there's something that I feel like I'm doing quote unquote wrong right now or bad right now, then I will, automatically just go in and, correct it so that it's like but this is something that can change. Or, no, I'm actually not always this way. It could also be like, I'm so disgusting because I haven't, like, for instance, when I drove from Spain to Denmark, I was in the car for 3 days and I didn't shower and I was wearing the same underwear. Yeah, I know, TMI, but I don't care. Hey, we're family here. If you like me, you like all of me. Like, listen, I was in the car, I was starting to stink and, all that good stuff. And I was like, when I came to them, I was like, oh, I'm so disgusting. And then I was like, I'm actually not disgusting, but I was in the car for 3 days, sitting alone with my 2 dogs who are also stinky. Hygiene was not a priority right then, but I'm so happy that the moment that I got here, I could have a shower and clean myself and really take pride in the cleanliness. So again, I know it seems like such a small little thing, but making it a habit of constantly, I don't want to say challenging your thoughts necessarily all the time, but being aware so that every time you say something that you feel like, oh, that was a little bit negative, I don't really know if I feel that way about myself, or I don't want to feel that way about myself, go in and end the sentence or the thought with something positive that could sound very affirmation like, right? You can use affirmations after it, or you can just say a random sentence just to basically speak against what it is that just came out for you. And again, as I said, there's nothing wrong with affirmations. If you enjoy it, absolutely 100% do it. Make sure you do the proper work though, before you start using affirmations again. Otherwise, it's literally, spinning uphill against wind. So make sure you're doing it the correct way. But I would argue as well though that what you need to make sure of when it comes to affirmations is they have to be such an integral part of your thinking of the person that you are, that every time something negative comes up in your head, the reflex for you should always be to reverse it and end it on a positive. That is where you'll get the most bang for your buck, because that is when you start really 100% taking control and taking charge of your mind and noticing when your mind is doing something that may not be beneficial to you in the long run. And not just like I've done my toothbrush, or I've brushed my teeth and I've done my skincare, so now I need to do 5 minutes of affirmations. That's also fine. Like, that's fine too. But, what about the rest of the day? Right? The rest of the day when you're saying negative things to yourself and you're not checking yourself on that, right? So anyway, those are the things that I wanted to share with you today about affirmations. As I said, if there's something about affirmations that you feel like I didn't speak on or that you wanted me to clarify, then reach out to me, preferably over on Instagram, because I can send voice notes. But then I'll definitely help you out with that. At Manifesting Muslima is where you can find me. I do hope that I know that I'm a rambly person, and as I've said a time and again, I do have a tendency to interrupt myself a lot. Somebody told me that it's like an ADHD thing, but I'm not a person who likes to self-diagnose. I already have a ton of other things. I don't need another one. I think it's just eagerness. I'm so eager to tell you the things that I'm basically cutting myself off because I'm like, oh my God, and then there's this other thing. So I do hope that you still could take away something valuable from this episode. And if nothing else, just to understand that affirmations do work, but they have to be done in the right way for them to work. So just keep that in mind. Nothing wrong with it. They do work. I have nothing against affirmations. Just make sure that if you're trying to do that practice, that you do it properly. Okay. So that is where I'm going to leave it with you right now. I will see you in the next episode, which is on Thursday. But until then, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.